Hi there, I thought I would do a video on the Goodwill Outlet and kind of the do's and don'ts of shopping there, because it can be a little bit daunting and a little bit different than shopping at a normal thrift store. And the difference between an outlet and a normal thrift store is that the outlet charges by the pound. So all of your clothing is by the pound. This dress is pretty lightweight. It's maybe 1 pound, 1.5 pounds, so it's about $1 something per pound. So $1 or $2 for this dress. Now don't get confused, because sometimes they still have the tag attached from when it was in a normal thrift store. This was originally $7 at a thrift store for Goodwill, but it didn't sell, so they sent it to the Goodwill Outlet. Which brings us to, how do items end up at the outlet? There are two ways. Items from normal thrift stores that have not sold in a couple of months will be weeded out by that thrift store and sent to the outlet. So some things will be priced, but you can ignore that price tag. Then some items are not priced. Like I got this long overcoat, and this is a large item that's heavy, so it was maybe $4 or $5, but that's compared to $30 at the normal thrift store is quite a deal. So when Goodwill has an excess of donations, more than their normal stores can handle, sometimes brand new items will end up at an outlet. There's no way to tell, it's just sometimes they have new stuff, sometimes they have stuff that's already been priced and gone through a store. But every person is looking for a different item, so you might find your treasure that somebody at a thrift store didn't see the value in, but if you're looking for a particular item, it might be just what you needed. How to tell a Goodwill Outlet from any other Goodwill thrift store. Thrift stores are often large buildings, but outlets are usually super large and located in kind of the outskirts of major cities. You can tell by going to goodwill.com, their website, and searching your local area, and it will say Goodwill store number blah 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 for a normal thrift store, but for Goodwill Outlet it will say Goodwill Outlet. Shopping and the process when you're in the store can be a little complicated. I will try to insert some photos that I've taken. They aren't super keen on you taking photos or videos in the store for some reason, but mainly what happens is you have these large plastic bins that are about 4 or 5 feet across and 3 or 4 feet deep. And there'll just be piles of clothing in there, and you just dig through and you find what you want. So let's talk about etiquette. You always want to be polite to those people around you. Sometimes people get in a little bit of a frenzy and are a little bit wild at the outlet. Just hang back if there's a big crowd. It's not worth fighting over a used sweater. So just give people a little bit of space. I like to have a bin to myself and leave people a bin to themselves. But if it is very crowded, 2 people per bin can work. You just have to be polite. You work on your half and then you'll switch places and work on the other half. You don't want to reach in front of somebody or grab things out of people's hands. That's crazy. So let's talk about the sales staff and how sometimes they will yell at you for not knowing what to do. They are not being mean to you. They are just trying to get you to follow rules, which you might not be aware of. So sometimes they have signs posted and sometimes they don't. It can be a little confusing. They clear an aisle, so they will compile things when they get empty and end up with an empty row of 4 or 5 bins. And then they will fill those with brand new bins that are covered with a sheet. When it's covered with a sheet, that means you don't touch it. You don't take that sheet off unless you're told that that aisle is ready to be shopped. So you will see a crowd of people standing around waiting for that new aisle to be released of 3 or 4 or 5 bins that are brand new. People tend to rush towards them. I don't do that. I'm looking for vintage items. This isn't my sole income. Some people, that is their job. They go to these stores and they resell clothing on eBay to make ends meet. I let those people have first dibs. They also have non-clothing items. They have glassware like cups and plates and mason jars, things like that. They are all 10 cents, and they are in these gray flip top bins. These get broken a lot, so do be careful and watch where you're reaching, because there can be broken glass. Some people wear gloves to protect their hands from glass. I don't. I'm just super careful when I go, and I only go once or twice a year. They also have larger items, which are not by the pound. Like, I got this vintage suitcase, and I believe it was $5. All of their luggage was $5. Modern, brand new, or vintage. And then sometimes they have heavier items that are cloth, like curtains, priced separately at a set price. I'm not sure what it is because I only bought it twice. Once I did it by the pound, and then later I realized I didn't have to do that. I could have pulled it out and said, this is a heavy curtain item, is it a different price? I think they're like $5 or $10 for curtains that are large. The checkout process is another somewhat confusing item. So you'll have your shopping cart full of clothes, and what you need to do is take out those heavy items like books or glassware or luggage and set that on the counter, and they will do that by price. I think books are also like 25 cents or something like that per book. But your clothing you leave in the basket. And I've had it both ways, where they have an empty basket on the scale in front of me. They weigh that to get the weight of the basket, so you're not paying for that weight of the basket. Or sometimes they have you unload all of your items into an empty basket, put your individual basket, weigh it, and then put everything back. That seems weird to me. So both ways happen. Just watch the person in front of you to see how they're weighing that empty basket to get that minimum weight, so they're not charging you. Then you roll your basket onto the scale with all your items, and they will charge you that. Some people worry about safety and shopping at a Goodwill Outlet. I have never had a problem. They're just like any other store. If you're at Target or Walmart or a thrift store, you want to keep your belongings in your sight. You don't want to have your purse sitting in your basket 4 feet behind you while you dig in a bin of clothing, because that's just inviting some kid or some person to come pickpocket your purse. So keep your belongings either in your pockets, like a wallet, in your front pocket, or a crossbody purse is what I often wear, so that my stuff is where I can always see it. I've never had a problem, but you always want to be aware of your surroundings. So what sort of items will you find at a Goodwill Outlet? You will find all of those items that you find at any normal thrift store. It could be a modern item, it could be a vintage item, it could be an item with a hole in it or a stain on it, because sometimes those get weeded out. For example, I got this wedding slip. Wedding slips are super expensive new. They're like $100 for a petticoat with a tiny amount of netting. And these are just worn under formal gowns to give the skirt a little bit of fullness. This one has a tiny hole right here. So that's why it was probably weeded out of the normal Goodwill thrift store and sent to the outlet, because not everybody wants to deal with that. It's not a problem for me. That takes me 5 minutes to sew up. And this is a Mary Modes petticoat, so it's a pretty good brand, possibly vintage 1980s or 90s, judging by the style of ruffle and tag. So it's a treasure hunt. You could find anything. I found genuine vintage items, like this dress that was handmade with a little circle skirt and adorable bows. I think somewhere on here there is a discoloration, but I'm pretty sure a little bit of OxyClean will get it out. So, all in all, super cute, and you never know what you're gonna find. What happens to items that are not sold at the Goodwill Outlet? Excellent question. So, items that are donated to Goodwill go often first to a normal Goodwill thrift store, and if they're not sold there, they go to the Goodwill Outlet to be sold by the pound at a lower rate. Sometimes those items still don't sell. They collect those and then they send them all over the world to third world countries. That's why you'll often see little kids in an underdeveloped country wearing like t-shirts and stuff that are clearly American. So they go to help the needy, no matter if they're getting revenue or they're donating the actual item. And some people in Africa and other places like that will make their income from those donations. They'll find that item that is some nice item that they don't need and sell that to make a living. So wherever you're donating, it's always going to a good cause. If you like these thrift hauls, please leave me a comment on what items you're interested in. Are you interested in modern items or vintage items, vintage inspired items? I shop for all sorts of things, and I will leave a link below to my Etsy, Poshmark, and eBay so that you can find them. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe.